Earth scientists study processes that occur at the intersection between the four major Earth spheres. The hydrosphere, which involves all water on Earth in solid, liquid, or vapor form. The biosphere, which involves all life on Earth. The geosphere, which involves the solid part of the Earth from its surface to its core. And the atmosphere, which involves the layer of gas that envelopes the Earth.
In this unit, we will focus on applications of exponential and logarithmic functions that Earth scientists use to understand and predict a variety of these processes. Atmospheric CO2 levels have been rising over roughly the last 2.5 centuries at a rate that resembles exponential growth. This data set shows the variation in atmospheric CO2 through time. It is commonly referred to as the Keeling curve after Charles David Keeling, the pioneer of this kind of measurement, and was developed by the Scripps CO2 program at the University of California, San Diego. As you learn about exponential functions, you will watch a video that explains more about the methods and importance of these measurements and explore a mathematical model that describes the observed change in CO2 with time. Do you notice that the shape of the graph resembles an exponential function where the rate of change increases with time? An Earth scientist could construct an exponential function that fits this data and then use that function to predict atmospheric CO2 concentrations far into the future. This method can show us how atmospheric CO2 might influence interactions between the atmosphere and the other spheres of the Earth system.
When CO2 dissolves in water, the two react to form carbonic acid. As atmospheric CO2 concentration increases, more CO2 dissolves in global oceans, producing more carbonic acid. This phenomenon is called ocean acidification, and it poses a major threat to marine organisms such as corals and many species of plankton that make their skeletons from a compound called calcium carbonate. If water gets too acidic, calcium carbonate begins to dissolve. As oceans become more acidic, it is increasingly difficult for calcifying organisms to build their skeletons. One example is pteropods, small planktonic organisms that form the base of the food web in many ocean systems. Researchers placed pteropod shells in seawater that was acidified to the predicted level of ocean acidity in the year 2100. The results show major shell dissolution after 45 days. Harm to pteropod populations poses danger to a variety of fish that depend on pteropods for nutrition. The same threat exists for coral reef environments. Reef habitats are the most biodiverse ecosystems on the Earth. They occupy only 1% of the seafloor, but house nearly 1/3 of all marine species. In addition to complications from ocean acidification, corals face the threat of increasing ocean temperatures associated with the warming of global climate. An international team of scientists has applied algebraic concepts and current ocean acidity data to forecast ocean acidity by the end of the century. The graph shows the evolution of ocean acidity in two different scenarios. Note that a line trending downwards indicates an increase in acidity. We will learn more about the pH scale in the homework questions. The blue scenario is the best case that involves a drastic reduction in human-emitted carbon dioxide. The red is the business as usual scenario that involves continued growth in carbon emissions at the current rate and resembles a logarithmic decay function. In addition to computer modeling, scientists are trying to understand how corals will respond to changing conditions with increasing atmospheric CO2.
My name is Laura Mydlarz, and I'm a professor of biology. Here at UTA, I have a research lab, and me and my students study coral reef ecosystems, specifically how corals are responding to stresses such as high temperatures associated with climate change. We collect data in the field by diving and making photographic observations. We also collect pieces of coral from the reef, and we take them to study them in the lab. We use logarithms and exponentials in our research almost every day. pH is on a logarithmic scale, bacterial growth is measured on a log scale, and exponential functions dictate many of our equations that we use to quantify these reactions.
It's clear that environmental parameters such as atmospheric CO2 or ocean acidity are changing. But are the changes happening today different than those in the past? To answer this question, we need to know how Earth systems have changed before. For example, some scientists reconstruct atmospheric CO2 concentrations from several hundred million years ago, much older than the Keeling curve data, by analyzing fossils preserved in rocks. But to create an accurate reconstruction, a scientist must have a good constraint on the age of a given fossil. How can scientists determine the age of a fossil exactly? To do this, they use a technique called radiometric dating. Radioactive elements break down into new elements called decay products. As time passes, the amount of the original radioactive element decreases as it converts to decay products. Geoscientists use relative proportions of the radioactive element and decay product to determine how long ago a material formed. It turns out that the amount of a radioactive element through time follows a pattern of exponential decay, which is described by an exponential function. The development of these exponential functions makes it possible for Earth scientists to calculate the age of a material.